Okay, so in the Canada-France game between the quarterfinals, on downtown here, our original plan had been a... So in terms of like figuring out this map, I'm only going to go over like the rollouts and whatnot. But our plan on this map was going to be Pharah and Widowmaker. Now we started on Goats, but Goats gets completely butt fucked by a Widowmaker and a Pharah. So we're like, okay, France is a Goats team. So we'll just kind of roll out with that and assume that they're going Goats, and we can set up the really nice crossfires and destroy them. And kind of the one complication here, if you're doing something like normally, if you were preparing only for Goats, you would play something like Farah Sombra, but we knew that the kind of counter to the Farah Sombra is a McCree. So on the off chance that the opponent does play a McCree here, Surefour leaves Translocator in spawn and swaps to Widowmaker. Right? So this is the scouted play. So you go off to angles. There's the backup. Oh, Surefour didn't put it all the way in spawn, but you're going to see him run back and immediately switch to Widowmaker. Widowmaker's fall-off range, better angles, makes you really good against a McCree, and you can see that Mangachu's just playing super safe until we get the rest of our team here. They, the tanks try and push, which is a little bit interesting. They take a lot of damage, which is going to be forcing them to back off, and that opening is going to give Surefour the angle he needs. So that is the rollout on the first point, right? So we knew that we wanted to have something to be really good against Goats, which is the idea, ooh, I really like that we can move around while shit is paused. So the idea behind this was Farah Sombra was really good against Goats, and then Sombra also gives us the ability to scout, along with like Note boosting vertically and Surefour taking a flank. It gives them sufficient sight lines to be able to scout if France has a McCree. In this case, they do. Surefour goes back, goes to Widow, and now we're on a counter. So that's the first game. How do I go to the next map? Weird. Okay. I'll buy that for $1. Now, on this map, our original plan was to go Brigida and McCree. But at the last minute, we decided to go with the Sombra Doomfist because we were expecting them to play Goats. But instead, they came out with the Brigida McCree. Now, they didn't come out with a Zenyatta, so why exactly they came out with the Moira here instead of the Zenyatta, I don't know. Now, this is kind of on me, in the fact that our plan changed so, like, last minute here. Like, our original plan was to go Brigida McCree, come here, fight at the drum, or whatnot. If we had gone... So we were playing Sombra Doomfist, we were expecting Goats, and if we were going to see the Brigida McCree, we were expecting them to come... Is it... I don't know how to pause. Is it... What is Control P? Okay. So it's just the situations that we had discussed as a team, none of them occurred. And we came in this like really weird kind of like poke situation. Whereas the hard counter to Brigida McCree is Goats. But we were still in like PTSD mode from not wanting to play Goats because we got creamed so fucking badly in scrims. So this is the thought process that kind of like froze us here. We went out expecting Goats, didn't see it. If they were on Brigida McCree, we would have expected them to be in a different place than they were. They were on Moira, not Zenyatta, which is a third complication. And then the counter pick to this is a composition that we knew we'd gotten kind of destroyed on. So this has led to us being in a really awkward position where we didn't set up for an engagement and we didn't retreat to swap, which put us in a fucking terrible position. So we kind of go in half-heartedly because the point's unlocking, but it's already been capped, and we're just playing like we're fucking plat here. Like, I'm not even going to pretend like this was anything. Like, this is shit that I would be mad at if you did this in Masters, man. So this was not good. This was not good. Now, instead of going on to Goats, because we're not comfortable on Goats, and our performance against UK kind of made that very scary for us to try and do that swap, we decide to kind of match here with the Brigitte McCree. And then I'll save the kind of like the in-depth review of this game for later, but that's kind of the rollout for this map. So there's that one. Now let's go to the next one. Okay. I wish I could... How do I go to, like, very specific map starts? Can I do that? I don't even know if I can. Okay, so on this next one, so this is Mecha Base here. Now, this one is interesting, and this is the one time in which we had really absolutely decided in advance that we wanted to play goats. So the plan here was that we expected France. So I explained this earlier, but follow along with the logic here, right? So we expected France to play Moira goats, and we expected France to play Moira goats because we expected them to expect us to play something like a Pharah, like a Sombra Doomfist or something like that. And Moira is really good for the matchup like goats against not goats, especially if the composition has a lot of projectile shit and whatnot. So France would expect us to play something that counters goats, which would put them on Moira goats. And in terms of the circle of counters within goats itself, Moira goats is countered by Ana goats, which is countered by Zen goats, which can be, but it is extremely difficult to counter with Moira goats. So there's this circle, right? So we're expecting France to do Moira because they're expecting us to either do Sombra Doom or a projectile dive. And so we go Ana because that is kind of one of the safest things to beat a Moira goats with. But France rolls out on Zenyatta goats, which is like one of the best goats mirror matchup compositions, ending up that they actually got the advantage in the blind rollout. So props to them. I don't know whose idea it was to run out on Zenyatta goats, but they won this coin toss. So you'll see Canada come out, you'll see France come out, you'll see us trying to scout. Here we're expecting Moira goats. So with this, like XQC wants to take a lot of ground. This would be the right play against Moira goats. It's the wrong play against Zen goats. The bubble comes out really early, which is going to allow basically France to all in XQC with Discord, which you'll see Discord get puts on him. They speed in. Where is the Brigitte? Oh, Brigitte Suna's right at the front. There's the stun onto XQC. You're going to get fucking destroyed. And then we're like, oh no, we've been outplayed. Back to spawn. And then we come back on what we wanted in the first place, which was Sombra Doom, but on the advantage here being that now France is on a Zenyatta goats and not a Moira goats, which is much, much, much worse at defending against Sombra Doom. Hi Doomfist, how you doing? We don't manage to do either of these points before they unlock, which is just honestly very poor discipline. But that was kind of the game plan for the Busan maps. So I hope that kind of gives you some ideas more about like the game plans going into these Busan maps. Eichenwald. I'm going to do an in-depth review of all these games later. I'm just kind of doing my overall chronological explanation of what happened. Now, on Eichenwald was France's pick, which we don't really have any problem with, because on first point, you can do Pharah Sombra, which is really good. And then on second point, if you do have the Pharah and the Sombra still, you can hold them really on this choke point. And then we kind of get into this point where we have Sombra Doom advantage if they try and play goats. And then things only really get sketchy when we get into third point, especially because XQC's mouse wasn't working in and around this area. So our plan here was Sombra Pharah, and you get Lucio here because if you play Ana, if you play Mercy Ana in this composition, Ana normally sticks around this position, but that can be really exploited. I won't go into too much detail, but so we wanted to play Lucio because Banny's Lucio had been really good, and we kind of found that having the Lucio in this matchup allows for your tanks to cleave and disengage like a lot easier. So as opposed to kind of having Ana where you might have more heals and also provide a liability, Lucio just makes the jobs of the tanks much, much easier in order to slow things down, stay alive, get cleave, etc. and whatnot. So here you can see Sureforce scouting, because scouting is so powerful. France rolls out. They swap themselves. And they go on a McCree Zenyatta dive here. Now, this would have worked out better, except for one thing you'll see. I think it was actually Unco who did it. Oh, come on. In about 5 seconds. Discord. Boom. So that was Crimzo's mistake. So AKM and Crimzo connected for Banny. Now, why did I wanted to watch this. I wanted to watch this later, but I'm going to watch it now. Why did Crimzo actually leave agilities? Banny's hiding. Yes, yes, yes. Why did Crimzo leave agilities? Oh, XQC's retreat. Boom. Deleted. Which is so unfortunate. Like, oh my goodness. Look at this again. So XQC retreats to the high ground, which is what he wants. Crimzo's like, I will save you. Crimzo's at full health. Benbest comes up, and I think Crimzo thinks that Benbest is chasing him, but Crimzo, boop. That's all it takes to lose first point. So we would have held this point for a lot longer if AKM and Crimzo didn't connect for that kill. Unfortunate, but it didn't really matter in the end. Where are we? Okay, and then on our attack, you'll see this strategy happen. You can change by... Ooh, mouse wheel. I'll look at the keybinds later. I just kind of want to do this overview. And then our general strategy on attack, especially for anything like first point of assault or first point of hybrid or anything like that, since we've got like 19 maps in the map pool and whatnot, it's very, very difficult to create any sort of really high-level strategies, set plays, plans, positionings, rotations for all of the maps. So you have pretty generic plans. And our generic plan for taking kind of difficult-to-take points was Ana, Genji, and Sombra. Now, the idea here, it always amuses me when I'm kind of like listening to the casters. They're like, oh, Canada needs to change it up here. Those fights aren't going very well. Whereas we're just like, farming ultimates, farming ultimates. So the idea behind it is that we usually start with Zenyatta Ana because it's super greedy. Zenyatta Ana is so greedy. And if you can get away with it, fuck the opponents, honestly. But... Control I. What is Control I? Ooh, shiny. Now, if you can play Zenyatta Ana and get away with it, like, fuck the opponents. They shouldn't be letting you do that. And then, so if we roll out on, like, Zenyatta Ana, and then if they are punishing us, then we go Lucio Ana, and then we have more, like, flex opportunities from there. But, so yeah, like, our entire plan is to take it slow, only kind of hard engage on opportunities that are very heavily in our favor, farm ultimates, because pretty much nothing in the game can survive an EMP Nanoblade if it's executed correctly. Oh, is it Alt F4? Okay. So, here we're going to roll out. Note's doing spy checks in case they're running Sombra. He boosts, and then Banny's right there with him to make sure that Note doesn't get demeched and just helps Note get away from the Goat's composition. And then at the same time, Sureforce is going to be applying point pressure onto the opponents, and here we're just farming. So you're seeing XQC just kind of like cleave frontline and shit like that. And yeah, from here, you can just farm EMP Nanoblade and fuck them up. So that was the plan for Eichenwald. No, I went back to Busan. Damn it. Let's go to Temple of Anubis. Okay, so Temple of Anubis. Now, this one, our plans changed at the last minute because they subbed in Nico. So we knew that France subbing in Nico means that they want to play Genji, which makes things interesting. So they're starting on attack and we're starting on defense. Now, the change that we made here is that our original plan was for Banny to play Ana here. So we were going to play Ana Zenyatta here with Banny and Crimzo. And the reason why you play Ana and Zenyatta here is because against a GOATS composition, you can start in this position right here. You can be safe. You can do a lot of work on the various sightlines or whatnot. If they try and rush under the bridge, you're in a nice position for a purple. You can like rotate to the high ground where you can just like exist forever and fuck people up. You know, have your tanks be able to, like your diva and whatnot, be able to get heals, you know, pretty much uninterrupted. But against dive composition, especially something like a Sombra dive or a Widowmaker, because we've got Surefour, we know that they have the opportunity to like play Widowmaker into us, and if we're playing dive, or if we're playing this composition on defense, then you really need to have that res in order to keep people up, because if Surefour gets picked, or if like Agilities gets destroyed, which I think he does, this Resurrect becomes more important than having the ability for Ana to kind of like dissect a tank-heavy composition. So this was the original plan here was to play Banny on Ana, but he goes on Mercy instead. So Surefour will always kind of like start behind the shield and then move back up. And then yeah, this just plays out per normal. Like these strategies are pretty kind of clear cut and whatnot. This was the long match. This is still France attack. Oh, this is our attack finally. And then on attack, right? Canada doesn't really have super creative strategies for first point attacks. We have like, I don't want to say it's super generic, but anytime we're going on like first point assault, escort, sorry, not assault, hybrid. So first point of hybrid or assault, our plans are pretty generic in that on attack, we want to be able to have the ultimates. If we do, like, we want to stay on this composition, we want to play pretty safe, try and kind of like spread out, get ultimate charge, look for opportunities based on, you know, the various kind of crossfires and whatnot. And if shit goes wrong 2 or 3 team fights in a row, by that time we'll have EMP and Nanoblade, and we can just absolutely fucking delete the opponents. So on the upside, having this composition on attack as well, instead of something more specialized, allows you to kind of snowball into second point if you do manage to take without using EMP Nanoblade, the chances of you being really, really close to that on second point is extremely high, which can allow for some pretty sweet snowballs. But yeah, that was the plays against those 3 maps. Now, the France-Canada game was 3-0, but it was way, 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 way closer than the score would imply. Like, the score between Canada and France on Anubis was like 5-4. So that's just like the general kind of thought process of going into each one of these maps. But yeah, so we managed to take that one, which was pretty exciting. And then the China-Finland game, like, first of all, this happened right after the UK and the US. So we'll talk more about that one in the first place. But how much do I actually want to kind of talk about this game here? Like, Ilios was a complete and utter fucking stomp for USA, and then things just kind of like kind of started to deteriorate. I'll go much more detail into it later, but US just didn't kind of keep to playing their game in scrims and whatnot. They had always been like super aggressive, always taking the initiative, you know, like pushing people back to spawn. You know, there would be times where, you know, sometimes fights would end up with us at our spawn, and they would be totally okay with kind of engaging through choke points. So if there was like, you know, if there was on Anubis, for example, right? Where's my button? Where's my whiteboard? How do I turn whiteboard on? Am I blind? It's not a screenshot. Huh. Anyway, so if there's like a choke here, right? And then there's a box here or whatnot, and the attackers are coming through. Normally, you would set the kill box to like this location or something like that. Where is my whiteboard button? It's weird that my whiteboard button is gone. Anyway, so normally like a kill box for dive would be here. You know, so if you try and go through the point in like a round or something, they'd engage you here. But the USA would have no problem like fucking you up in this area. Super aggressive. So they would take the fight to you even when they were defending in like really aggressive positions. And it was so hard to play again. That's the free Epic Pen version. I paid for Pro. Oh well. Anyway, let's get rid of that drawing. So USA was just played a super aggro style here. But in terms of like the UK the United States losing to the UK, that kind of did alleviate some of the pressure, honestly, onto our team. I put it into my pep talk, right? So going into like the France game, it was kind of like, you know, good luck, guys. Remember, no matter how badly you fuck up, at least we're not the USA. So that was a little bit of lowered pressure on us. And that even if it did really go bad, we wouldn't be the only people who fucked up terribly. So, you know, it was just a nice bit of levity in a very, very stressful and high-pressure situation. Finland versus China. Now, this game was happening while we were doing our own, like, press and whatnot. So we didn't get to watch a lot of it, but we came out of it and, like, you know, China got the 3-0. It was like, oh, my God. So that was a bit of a surprise. Now, this is kind of like some commentators on Twitter or whatnot were like, oh, China's amazing and whatnot. But everybody who was kind of like practicing or whatnot were like, yeah, on paper, China's good. They've got great players and whatnot. You know, their meta's always been a little bit different or whatnot. Like, yeah, it was Michael's tweet. Like, Michael's like, I think that China's pretty good. And my comment was like, are you picking blind or something? And like the comment that I made was, am I saying whatnot a lot? Okay, I'll stop. But China didn't scrim us because we were in the same bracket. So we didn't know anything firsthand about how good China was. Finland was expected to be a really good and strong team. And this is also why we were putting so much emphasis onto the GOATS composition. We knew we were going to play France first. After that, the expectation was that we are going to play Finland, another team which plays GOATS, and they also play GOATS like differently than France. And then honestly, if we made it to the gold medal, like the grand finals and whatnot, whether it was a GOATS team or not, didn't matter because we were in the grand finals. You know, worry about getting to the grand finals before you worry about the grand finals. I did not say whatnot. There's no way I said it. Whenever I stop streaming for a while, verbal tics always kind of like get back into my speech pattern. So to have China as our semifinal match was a little bit surprising in that the word on the street, as it were, was that China wasn't taking scrims very seriously. They were playing apparently silly or stupid shit and, you know, not trying very hard. You know, people were talking about how China was just like, you know, meteor striking like outside of people's spawns and things like that. So in terms of the rumors about scrim performances, which, you know, you can have your own opinions on, was that China was not trying very hard in scrims. And I don't know why. None of that is first person. Like, we never actually scrimmed China. But there was not a lot of scouting to be done. Now, the scouting that I did kind of put a lot of emphasis on was this Finland-China game. And this ended up actually kind of biting us. So if you look at Finland versus China here on Night Market, for example. Now, on this one, they played GOATS. And they played GOATS where we would play Zenyatta GOATS. They played Ana GOATS. And when, like, the opposite. So in the situations where we thought Zenyatta GOATS was strong, China was playing on a goats and vice versa. So we looked at their goats here, and their goats wasn't really super scary. They they had some things that they tried to do, but it was nothing that really felt was going to be much of a problem, and we weren't really going to try and force the goats matchup either. Like, anyway, we felt like if China went goats, which was probably unlikely in the first place, that we would be able to kind of abuse them with our regular plans. Going into Garden here. I hated how your kind of like cursor is locked and whatnot. So Garden, again, didn't really kind of give us any worry about China. And then if we're looking into the next map here. So if we're looking at Night Market, this also had China doing some really strange things. With like Gushui's rollout here into Courtyard with the Hammond, and then how they were scouting. Now, this fight in particular was very interesting to me, this setup. So let's pause. So here you can see Finland doing a rotation, right? Okay, I'll work on it, chat, please. It's distracting. I'll work on it. I'm trying to like remember and think about everything at the same time. So just give me a break. But China rolls out here on a composition that is meant to take out goats. You don't usually run Hammond in this meta unless you're trying to be a big asshole to goats. You can swing in, you can pile drive down, you can just get those adaptive shields, you can escape, and that escape can be assisted by late young on the Diva. You've got this Pharah, you've got this Sombra. I already talked about like how we were planning to dismantle goats. So China rolls out here on a anti-goats composition, and what is even more fascinating about this is that they scout Finland's Brigitte Kree, and they don't swap it. Right? So Gushui comes out, and they see the Winston, they see the Zenyatta and the Brigitte, and then Finland correctly scouts and rotates around. So you see China, who comes at a composition that is meant for one thing, they scout their counter, and they stay on it. And then Gushui does things like that, kind of like soft commits and whatnot. And there's not a lot of like coordination here. Finland's not pushing the issue. But this like really made me kind of think like, what is China doing? So it was things like this where I was like, if China does shit like this, we're not going to have a problem. We're just not going to struggle. If they're doing things like this, like if they're not counterpicking, if we can get them on counters and things like this, then this should not be an issue. So it was this map in particular that I looked at quite a few times because the rollouts of teams are a huge giveaway for what teams are thinking and how they are coached. If you look at like how UK is playing, they would have done this entirely different. But the combination of China rolling out on a very specific counter, not encountering their counter, being aware that they have kind of rolled out into a bad matchup, not rotating, not appearing to change play style, Finland rotating, I was kind of like, what is China doing here? And now I'm starting to kind of like buy into this story that China is still kind of unprepared and they don't seem to really care. And Finland is just, also not playing very well. So this map was like But I'll skip like the full kind of scouting and work I did like for this game between Finland and China, in that after the game between France and ourselves, I kind of just let the players go for the day. I didn't want to scrim that evening. I didn't want anything like the amount of pressure and whatnot that the players had been under during the weekend was really high, and it was a big relief for people to have gotten the win against France. So I let them go for the evening. I went out for like a party for 2 hours or so, came back and just started really digging into how China was going to play. Now, China big-brained me. China big-brained me in the fact that an entirely different China showed up on day 2 compared to day 1. Entirely different. And I don't know if it's true, but apparently China pulled an all-nighter preparing for us. Apparently China pulled an all-nighter preparing for us. Their Brigida and their McCree was really, really clean. And we were not expecting that. So, like, the Brigida and the McCree is the obvious counter to a team that wants to play against Canada. If any team successfully scouts Canada, which should not be difficult, you should spam Brigida and McCree into us. That's what you should do. That is the correct answer. So here, GOAT's composition, we are expecting, we want to roll out on the same sort of thing that we did on, words are hard, that we did on Busan Downtown with the Pharah and the Sombra here, as well as having the ability for Surefour to swap onto the Widowmaker if they are playing the McCree, which actually does work out. So the reason why we don't swap off of our dive against Brigida and McCree is because this will be scouted by Surefour, and Surefour will go on to Widowmaker. There's the swap. On the next map, Okay, a little bit too far. Now, we get big-brained again on this one, is that we're expecting a dive, something similar to what they played on Night Market, to which we go the Brigida and the McCree composition, the same that Finland did, and we're expecting something similar, and then they big-brain us again, in that not only do they play our counter on the rollout, but they prevent us from scouting it. So, our scouting against China fucked us in the fact that we're playing things, expecting to counter things that don't get shown, and then China is pulling out compositions that we did not expect, and also preventing us from being able to scout these compositions in time. You can see they haven't shown themselves, and it's just about to be 10 seconds before the point unlocks. So we can't, like, their Sombra gives them scouting, and it doesn't, we don't have a Sombra, so we can't scout in the same way. And they get the drop on us. You know, them having a Sombra gives us a very small advantage if we can take advantage of, like, forcing Shy's translocator, or in the fact that they just have less frontline resources. But they just straight up outplayed us here. So we now know they're on goats. And we go back to... Oh, no. We, I think... Now, I don't actually know this, but I don't actually know this for sure, because, again, coaches didn't have access to comms. What are the actual keybinds? Controls. There's got to be a rewind. I'll figure it out later. But, so yeah, you'll see we'll come out, we take position on the point pretty aggressively, you know, expecting something like a Pharah Sombra or something like that. And then they were like scouting, like, where are they? What are they doing? And then it's going to be called out as soon as we see them underneath that it's Firestrike, and you can see us immediately retreating back. But I think that a call is made to stay on, and it's maybe because we recognize they have a Sombra. Again, I didn't have access to voice comms, so I don't know what the call was to try and stay on this composition and fight against what is essentially our counter. So, they get first cap, they get first position, we get destroyed. Not good. Now, this composition is one that we prepped for group stages. It didn't work out, but we knew, like, we knew why it didn't work out. And again, one of the things, like this composition is pretty good against goats. It's pretty good against, like it can win against goats. It's not like a good counter for it or anything, but against dive, especially on this map, it is amazing for it, especially if you take first cap. Now, again, one of the things that kind of missed our scouting here was that China's Brigitte and McCree composition was really, really quite clean, and they actually play their Brigitte McCree here is textbook how we play Brigitte McCree on this map, actually. So go traffic side, take position here. Surefour gets a little bit ahead of the tanks, which causes the Wraith form to be baited out early, and that causes us to lose immediately. So let's kind of slow this down here. So speed up. Here's the setup. We want to deny high ground, first and foremost. Nope, slow down. So Surefour gets in front. Normally, we're going to be wanting to have XQC jump in so that we can close distance without having to use any other cooldowns, because the chance of them breaking like a 600 HP bubble right away is not very good. So let's go back just one more time and look at this engage. Yes, yes, yes. Go up. Okay, so we're coming in. Now, the idea is that we should be able to get a Discord onto a target and then delete them. Like even if you stun Late Young here. So look at the Discord on Late Young. Late Young has Discord. Now, with the Soldier, with the Zenyatta, with the Reaper, and everything else like that, even Late Young here can be one-clipped. Even Late Young can be one-clipped pretty easily if you manage to land the stun on it. So what XQC should be doing is kind of like jumping in first and isolating, and then we can destroy anyone. With the stun, it's just so much damage. Now, what actually ends up happening is, of course, Surefour takes the lead beforehand. A nice headshot gets hit right before XQC goes for the isolation. Late Young backs off, and then we don't find a target, and we get taken out. So they played that really well. We did not, and then we immediately swap off. Now, the unfortunate decision here is, of course, that we went to the Brigitte and the McCree mirror, and China had a better Brigitte and McCree than us when, again, like a fine kind of comp here. You could have done goats. It's not, like, bad that we did Brigitte and McCree, but we didn't have any kind of information. I hadn't talked to or scouted China's Brigitte and McCree composition very much. So we were kind of playing into them blind, that we didn't know how exactly they played Brigitte and McCree, whereas I'm sure they had information and a plan for the actual Brigitte and McCree matchup. So this caused China to get the first map there. Blizzard World. Oh, fuck this map, man. This was heartbreaking, this one. This was heartbreaking. So, this is the only time that our plan has not worked out, right? So we're, like China. Let's go. This is kind of neat with the whole, like, scroll wheel thing. It's not as good as, I guess, jumping around. I just want to talk about our attack. So, I talked about it earlier, but our plan on attack here, like China capped all 3 points. But our plan on attack here, just like on any other kind of first point assault or first point escort or anything like that, was the Ana, the Zenyatta, and the Genji. Sorry, Ana, Genji, Sombra. So if you can farm... Oops, let's stop here. So the idea behind this is basically that you roll out with the Zenyatta and the Ana together because it's an extremely greedy composition, right? It's a very weak and kind of abusable backline. But, you know, if the opponent is not playing an aggressive dive defense, you can get away with it. And what the fuck do you think China is playing? An aggressive dive defense with Doomfist and Sombra. So this, first off, is a really good scout, or like really good pick from China. And this will force Banny to go Lucio. Like the game plan here is for Banny to go Lucio as soon as he knows this is a thing. So the first fight, let's look at the first fight here. How does this actually end up going poorly? There's the very aggressive dive, and we get deleted. You know, we got Gushui there. I thought that wouldn't work a lot worse than it did. But we still have Banny on Zenyatta here, which is not a good backline support duo to be on against this composition that China is playing. Like we needed to be Lucio in order to kind of tank the dives a lot easier and give up the Zenyatta pick here. It's too greedy. Now, when you take a position here with XQC, there's Note was out of mech from the last fight, so this is still like a continuation of the fight previous to it. So really sloppy here. We get abused. XQC jumped in when he was low and when Note wasn't even in mech, and then we go back here. And now Banny's at 86% to trans, so he's going to stay on. So this is unfortunate as well. But, you know, so far, like, our game plan is still in progress, right? So our game plan for first point takes is we want to kind of take it slow, methodically, only go for, like, guaranteed picks if somebody fucks up or we're able to force or something like that. And then here, this one was actually crazy. I want to take a look at this one again, because this was also just... This is such a demonstration of how good China is, or was. So, again... We gave up our game plan here is another thing, is that we decided to go for like an all-in dive without ultimates. Like, look how close we are. We're 84% to Blade. We're 76% to, you know, EMP. Crimzo's slow charging on the Ana, but that's because he's getting fucked up because we're still on the Zenyatta here. But Surefour should be behind. Yeah, Surefour's here scouting. And he gets in behind them. And he's in this location where he's scouting the supports, and he's going to call for an aggressive, you know, kind of like an all-in dive, which, you know, again, if you're doing this, you know, Lucio, you're going to be doing it where the Zenyatta is going to be fighting kind of like at range and things like this. And let's look at XQC's dive. So, the first thing, what do you guys notice about this dive? I don't know why my phone's ringing. What do you guys notice about this dive? Hello? Oh, what do you guys notice? Some people are saying Note's not there, but Note's coming. What I'm noticing is this. Oh. So this is what happens when you change game plans. This is what happens when you try and change game plans. This is what happens when you try and force. We were not playing well at all, this map. So this dive comes in. Now, this dive is still good. Sombra is decloaking. Genji is swift striking in. XQC is in motion. Node is in motion. Now, I want you guys to watch how China survives this dive. Agility's dash doesn't land, but XQC is here. They're both going to be chasing it down. Skye is solo. Skye gets bubbled from Late Young, and then Skye nanos Veltal. So at this point, our game plan is off. we needed to be on Lucio after the first fight. We needed to be playing this slow. We needed to be playing for our win condition, which is going to be EMP Nanoblade. But it's now coming up on 2 minutes into our Blizzard World attack, and Crimso's at 60% to 66% to his Nanoblade, or his Nano Boost. So this is like, we're shook. We're shook here. Now, the good thing is that we're going to be coming up to our win condition. We're going to be coming up to our win condition really slowly. Now, another kind of like factor going into this win condition is the fact that we need to have EMP Nanoblade charged before the 2 minute mark. So if we fuck it up, we have one more shot. We're going to come back in. We've got Nano and whatnot. We're probably going to sit in the poke, and we get deleted by an EMP. Agilities is out. Note's probably going to get his mech broke. He does. They use trans. Okay, I don't know why they use trans, but hey. So now we're at 1 minute 30. So at this point, we only have one attempt at our win condition. Crimso's still at 93%. Ugh. That's so rough. Surefour's in the back scouting. EMP, Nano, Blade, 20 HP, Sleep. That's why we lost Blizzard World. Right there. And they knew it too, right? They knew it. Late Young even tried to grab agilities. they knew it. They knew it. What? Oh, did I go all the way back? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, let's look at this again. Up we go. Here we come in. We finally have our win condition. We're going to win this. We've got EMP. We've got Nanoblade. Here we go. Dash. Reception. EMP. The grab to try and catch. The sleep to punish. I know. And now we've got 50 seconds left on the timer, which means we need something desperate, which is probably going to be like a Goat swap, a Brigitte McCree swap. Those are the two main swaps that you would do. Going into a Doom Cree defense, you should pick Goats. Goats is the better counter than Brigitte McCree for last fight. Not that we're going to get one anyway. All dead. So that was Blizzard World. That got us shooketh. So I just kind of like a few like closing thoughts about China. We didn't play our game. We played very poorly. We kind of, we didn't stick to our game plan. We got scared. We got shook, if you want to call it like that. And this isn't like a failure of any one individual. Like, you can't say that Crimso charging his boost that slowly is his fault. It's not, right? You need a team. It's like you live as a team, you die as a team. So, and again, I wasn't listening to the comms, so I don't know exactly why everything went to shit, or what were the things that were recognized that caused the calls to be made the way they were. But I feel disappointed, because I know that Canada could have played a lot better against China than we did. On the same side, I have no shame in having lost to China, because they played well, they did their homework, and the better team won. They showed up, and so absolutely huge respect to their coach as well for being able to figure us out so intimately overnight, right? So we lost, It sucks. We could have done better, but even if we were playing at our best, China outbrained us. So, props to China. Props to China for this game. But yeah, I like this attack here. This first point attack from Canada was absolutely our worst showing in the entire tournament by far. So if you guys now know so here's kind of, if you want to take a look at this first point attack from Canada in the viewer from your own perspective, remember that our initial game plan is to farm EMP Nanoblade as fast as possible, playing safe unless we can find an almost guaranteed opportunity for a frag. We play Zenyatta Ana on rollout because it's greedy. If they're playing an aggressive dive defense, which they were, we need to switch to Lucio as soon as possible, which didn't happen. So with that kind of information of our plan and China having scouted that plan, this should be a real fun one for kind of people to take a look at in the game viewer. So this kind of frustrated people, losing, I can't understand the amount of stress and pressure that everyone was on this weekend was extremely high. We're coming into this as the silver medalists from the year before. And, if we don't make it to the grand finals, we did worse than the year previously. We did worse in a year where Mangachu was playing off tank instead of something he's comfortable on. So there was a lot of pressure going into this. But on the other hand, the teams, just all 8 teams in this tournament were also a lot better. So this sucked against China. Losing sucked. I'm not going to say much more about it. Bronze medal game. So here, remember how against France we rolled out on Ana goats because we wanted to see French goats and we wanted to kind of get that first fight as well as some information about them. Here, we're nope, UK is the better goats team. We're immediately out on Sombra Doom. Just immediate. Nope, fuck you guys. We're not even going to attempt the goats matchup, so we roll out on Sombra Doom. Not much else to say about this map's initial plans or anything. Let's go to the next map. Yes, next map. So we took that one, or they took that one, right? Now this one kind of spooked us. So, and I still don't know. So this is still, I'll watch all of these maps way more in detail. I'm just doing my overview of the entire weekend right now. This composition spooked us, UK's. Now, honestly, in retrospect, hindsight is always 2020, right? Hindsight is always 2020. But in scrims against UK, we forced goats because we wanted to test how our goats performed. And we just took it for granted that we could demolish goats playing Sombra Pharah Doomfist, Sombra, just any combination of Pharah, Sombra, and Doomfist, we could fuck up goats. Am I sniffling? Okay. But this composition from the United Kingdom with the Sombra and the Roadhog is not something we'd practiced against, and it had surprising efficiency against us. So this is the composition that caused us to go into, okay, it's time to adapt, because we're not the most coordinated team, Canada. I'm just going to be completely honest about that one. Like I talked about earlier, we're a really low-energy team. Surefour is an individual who likes to carry. He likes to go on to characters that he has the highest impact on. He doesn't like it when he has to kind of go onto a character that needs to work as a very coordinated kind of 6-man unit in order to make something happen. Because if something not his fault happens to cause that to not be successful, he gets frustrated about that. So he wants to carry, and he's a really, really good carry. But, that kind of thing with XQC wanting a little bit of kind of, information from the team, plans from the team, like Banny and Note calling things out, and Surefour in agilities, or Mangachu if he's playing instead of agilities, being really good at 1v1s and these poke fights. We're not a team to play very proactive. We're not ones to do super coordinated plays. Not from like lack of attempting to practice this or anything like this, but it's just our play styles are to be a lot more individual, very split, not in terms of how we're playing, but in terms of like positioning. And then between Note and Banny, Note and Banny's comms and awareness provides everyone on the team just so much information about what's going on and what's happening that people can, use that information to make their own decisions about how to kind of like pick people apart and whatnot. So this composition, I'm not sure if it's a counter to Sombra Doomfist, and I don't think it is, but we really struggled against it, and we didn't feel like we had enough time to kind of adapt to it playing the same thing. So this composition from the United Kingdom, the Sombra Roadhog, is something that I would want to take a look at a lot more in detail, how it functions, and why did we lose to it so much? Was it because of how we played, or was it because it is actually a counter the way that United Kingdom was playing it? I suspect it's because our coordination was not at what I would consider the professional level. And Sombra and the Roadhog here together, if there's a Sombra can hack Sombra to make sure that she can't translocate away, or Kib can hook Sombra to make sure that she can't translocate away. Doomfist, same thing. You can either hack him so that he's just a guy with an oversized hand, or you can hook him and kill him and hack him and all that. So, like, the Roadhog and the Sombra are both really good against Sombra Doomfist. So, this kind of stopped us from running it almost immediately. Let's see. I don't remember how this actually went in precise detail. Yeah, right? Kib gets Surefour. XQC just freaking out. Yeah, so at this point, Surefour is going on to the Hanzo. Now, just some random commentary about the Hanzo pick here. The Hanzo pick is something that we planned, but so the Hanzo was a pick against Roadhog, but the Hanzo was a planned pick against Finland, because Finland plays Roadhog in place of Brigitte in like a quad tank setup. And this is where one of our plans bit us, is that we kind of like fell back onto doing double projectile like Pharah and Hanzo against a Roadhog, when the presence of the Roadhog to us implied quad tank Finland. So we're going on to Hanzo here against Roadhog, but the Roadhog is being played differently in a different composition than the situations in which we had planned to play against it. And yeah, I don't know if I need to say anything else about that one. Anyway. And we get fucked up. 1-0 United Kingdom. Blizzard World was our pick. Blizzard World was our pick because, first of all, we had really, really, really good results in scrims. I don't think we ever lost to Blizzard World in scrims, ever. Flaw China. But the thing about Blizzard World is that we can burn time down on this first point, and then if we're going against GOATS teams, this second point is just fucking cancer if you're a GOATS team. There's this high ground, there's this high ground. This area is so close, it might as well be a 2CP point where you can get reinforcements. Like, if it comes down to just a fucking brawl and you can stall things out, your reinforcements can arrive. Like, it's a very, very, very hard point to try and take if you're playing a GOATS team. So we knew that even if we couldn't full hold on first, that against a GOATS team, there's like no way they should take second from us. So, yeah, like Blizzard World second is just an insurance against goats. Yeah, and let's see. I think we lose first pretty quickly, actually. Does the word cancer offend people? Sorry. Yes. UK's attack. Let's look at this. UK kind of fucked this one up. So we'll talk more about this when we get into like a really detailed review against France. But this is one thing that we were really good at, was trying to force Goats teams to rotate and then just punish the ever-loving fuck out of them for doing so. Now that's actually a mistake from Agilities. Really bad mistake from Agilities, actually. Well, not really bad, but you should not be making those errors at this level. I didn't actually notice this. So right here... Oh, no. Wrong button. Shit. Yes. That stun right against fusions right here. So the thing about stun's duration is that most people out of habit or whatnot will left-click and then flail. But the thing is, if you stun, left-click, flail, the individual will regain control of their movement during the knockback. But if you just stun, flail, then they don't regain control of their movement, and they can't counter-strafe or counter-move. But here, Agilities swings and then knocks back. So Fusion gains movement right there and stays on. So if Agilities had just bashed and flailed, Fusions would have gone farther. But anyway, so they get messed up here. I don't know why they were trying to... Anyway, rotating like right over an environmental hazard. Good luck. And then Banny just kills everyone. So this defense, we actually end up taking this point because of their overextension. Or no. That's on our attack that happens. So we almost full hold anyway. Yeah, and this is like one of the things is like we almost full hold them on first point. And we lose anyway. But going into second point, they've just got no hope. They've just got no hope on second point if they try and play Goats against us, because it's just such an anti-Goats map. So, Smex is celebrating. He's like, yay, we took first. Oh no, we have to do second. So, yeah, I won't watch it. But there's not much to watch. It's just us fucking. Like, so far, I guess the storyline is... so far, the storyline in this match is Busan, oh shit, this Roadhog Somber thing is really scary. Blizzard World is lol. Goats is shit. Get fucked, UK. So let's go to Volskaya. Do. Oh boy! And right before this match was where I came on to stay, or we were talking about it, about what to do against the Roadhog Sombra composition. So this is where this map, the vast majority of this map was spent trying to adapt to United Kingdom. This one was going to be fun to review in a lot of detail. Because UK was pretty good, and we went into adapt mode. Adapt, figure out what works, try and find a counter, experiment. So like in terms of like set plays or play styles or whatnot, there's a lot of things going on here, and we were trying to find a weakness. But this composition here, this like Winston composition, is inspired by China's compositions. So this map was just really messy. I don't want to get into too much detail. Like here we're playing double sniper because we knew that Volskaya was one of the maps that UK did double sniper against US. So we were testing to see if we could force double sniper matchups, and if we did, if we would win them. Like, just so much random shit happened in this map. Here, we're doing, like, Brigitte McCree. Now we're back onto dive goats. So, and I don't have comms because fuck coaches, right? So I couldn't hear this, but just from having seen the play, you could just see everybody on Canada's brain, like on Canada, everyone was just brains going in fucking overdrive, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't, and what not. So this was like a practice. We were basically doing a practice scrim on stage. It's kind of weird to say, but this map was a desperate attempt to figure out United Kingdom. So we threw a lot of different things at them, a lot of different strategies, and got a better understanding for how the United Kingdom ticked. So this map is messy as fuck, and probably if you're an amateur analyst or coach and you want to look at this map, you'd be like, I wonder what were the 900 IQ strategies going on here. Don't bother. Don't bother. Fuck May. I don't know what else to say about it, but fuck May. Fuck Hayes for coming up with that strategy. God damn it. So here, we liked, Junker Down is a sniper map. Volskaya showed us that, in the sniper matchup, Agilities and Cheerfor could win that. Mangachu was really kind of upset with his performance, and he kind of let us know that some of the things that happened on Volskaya were his fault. Like, Mangachu, I'm not sure if he wants me to say this, but I think it's important for people to share. Like, Mangachu was almost, like, distraught at his performance on Volskaya. Like, he knew that he could have played better, and I think that he attributed the loss against United Kingdom on Volskaya to himself and his performance. So it was always the plan for Agilities to play on this map. It's not like I subbed him out because he sucked. He played so well in scrims, so well in all the games, and like his last on-stage performance, he personally felt like he really truly underperformed, but he let us know that. And like he kind of talked about how we could win in these situations, like in these matchups and whatnot. And when Agilities comes in, he's like, it can be done, sort of thing. So Mangachu, his performance, he's not wrong. His performance could have been better on Volskaya. At least, that's my opinion of it from not having kind of reviewed in super high detail. But he was still kind of like super, super critical to this turnaround, the come behind victory against UK. So like I was just so heartbreaking seeing him kind of during this game, like, head in his hands, reflecting on that performance and thinking that he might have cost Canada the chance at the bronze medal. So hearts out to you, Mangachu. You killed it like the entire tournament. So, but anyway, let's take a look at this game. So the plan here is in scrims, there was always the possibility, I suppose, that teams run goats on attack. We had tested goats on attack here ourselves just to see how best to counter it, and it wasn't really that challenging. They don't do it. They do Bastion instead. I get a buffering? Go away. Why am I buffering? Am I still connected to stream? I still am. Okay, question mark. Anyway, so they're playing Hanzo. Against Hanzo, you can just kind of like take map control from them and destroy them. So Surefour's flank here buys us enough time to kind of do a reset. I would have liked to have engaged a little bit quicker, as was the plan, but this was not very well drilled. So there's still like a little bit of improvising going on here, but yeah, that shot onto Mikey, pretty good. So it's kind of like standard defense here, and then on our attack Junkertown is where this shit gets interesting. Fuck me. Oh my god. Now, we knew that UK was going to do something shitty. And the plan here on the very start was to cheese the cheese. So our plan here was to have Note, Agilities, and Surefour come out this top window. Because Goat's teams doing this on Junkertown, you're not sneaky. We know it's going to happen. It's like spawn camping on Rialto. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. How could I have ever expected this? So, like, expecting Goats here is standard. Expecting Goats here is standard, right? So XQC is going to come out here as the bait. And then what we want to do is on normal Goats, like will happen usually like a Hammond here or something like that. And we'll like rush to the wall here. Even if you scout May, you probably think that the May is just going to like wall this off or whatnot. So this is fine. But you want to take the Bastion and teleport the Bastion right fucking here so that the Goats can't do anything, and then you can just push with your D.Va on the other side of the payload, and if they try and contest, they're just going to eat a fuck ton of Bastion bullets to the face. Now, I still don't know why, but Surefour gets set up here like we've planned, and then he drops off onto the payload. And I don't know why. I haven't talked to him yet. And then Surefour kind of like tries to get off the payload because he realized that's a bad idea. But then he gets deleted. And then he swaps off. So I'll have to talk to Surefour why he jumped off the high ground as the Bastion. But that caused us that caused this to be a lot more painful than it had to be. Like, why? Why did you do that? Don't know. Was not in the script. Was not in the script. And the coaches didn't have comms, so I have no idea. So this made it a lot more painful than it had to be. But then Agilities, from using the information kind of Mangachu had told him, we eventually end up on Farah here, and Agilities just destroys the United Kingdom with barrage after barrage after barrage after barrage after barrage, and we'll eventually take Junkertown. Like, how you judge whether a spawn camp was successful or not is basically if you can waste 30 seconds or more. But the United Kingdom wasted like 70, 80 seconds here. It was crazy. Anyway, so that was... You can watch this one. That was an interesting game to watch. And then Lijiang Tower. Now, I'm going to say something really disrespectful. But why this map was 100-0? Because if you watched Lijiang Tower here, both of these maps were 100-0 for Canada. Both of them. Right? Eh. 100-0. 100-0. Both of these maps, 100-0. Now, the reason why both of these maps were 100-0 as opposed to any of the other maps that Canada played against the UK was because this map was the first one that I think Canada actually cared about. You'll see if you compared... The UK didn't choke. You'll see if you look at this map compared to all of Canada's other maps. All of them. All of them. This is the only one that Canada went proactive. We tried it in scrims. We tried to implement different kind of like dive tactics that required, proactive engages, different versions of goats, which caused us to be proactive. It didn't work in scrims. We're not that kind of team. We're very kind of low energy, passive, use our information and our higher skills to force chaos, isolate matchups into 1v1s, win those 1v1s, things of that variety. This is, and I've seen it before. Surefour and XQC and them do it when we're like trolling bad teams or whatnot. So if I accidentally schedule a team that's like too low or whatnot, sometimes they get a little bit, loopy, I guess, and they go really, really hyperactive on calling and whatnot. And so I could just tell that Canada woke up for this match and we actually cared about it and started doing things proactively. So this one it's just a different Canada played on this map compared to all of the other maps. All of the other maps. So we're going to roll out here on Sombra Farah. And they're going to roll out on Brigida and McCree. Now, previous to this point, of course, again, we've been scared of playing Goats, even though Goats is like the main counter to Brigida and McCree. Now, this is going to be a textbook example of how to do the first 30 seconds on control. So the first thing is that we're going to come out here, and we're going to scout. Agilities is going to be scouting the right side. And then Surefour should be scouting the left? Yes, Surefour is scouting the left. You always want, it's weird, but you always want crossfires of vision, if that makes sense, to scout as much as possible. XQC receives the scout call, long range jump, disengage, and you're going to see everybody, with the help of Banny, get the fuck out. Cross vision. Multiple sight lines to get as much accurate scouting as possible. We've got 15 seconds. At this point, the scouting is being confirmed using the tab menu. We're going over. We're no longer pussies. We're playing Goats. We're playing this counter. We've got 8 seconds to get to this point. XQC has to decide whether he's going to jump the window or he's going to create the full rotation. We decide to go for the full rotation. 1 second, the point is about to be unlocked, and we cross just past 75%, and we pick one target. And that target is fusions. We reset to stabilize. And then as soon as we go in, we pick one target, and Mikey gets deleted. Canada didn't play like this at any other point in the tournament. Not from lack of trying or experimenting, but it was not our play style until you have like 9 gallons of adrenaline pumping through your veins. This is the benefit of morale. This is momentum. These are the intangibles you're seeing. You know, it's the human factor of a team that I think I learned the most about during this tournament. Is caring for the mental state of your players, you know, the morale, keeping people high energy, keeping people motivated and engaged during losses. Like us engaging here proactively and catching the UK off guard, the UK was not ready for this. There's no way they could have scouted this because we'd never played like this before. Here you're seeing high energy, focus, momentum. People are trying absolutely everything they've got to win. And they're doing it. So, if I learned anything as a coach over these playoffs, it was the importance of the human factor. We'll never see the theoretical perfect game of Overwatch. And there's no real point in trying to play to it. But if you adjust based on not just your team's, you know, player strengths or whatnot, but their personalities and their preferences and how the game wants to be played, be a lot more successful. So, in the same, like the US against UK probably had the opposite of this. You know, they're starting to doubt. So, that's all I really have to say about this match. I can't take credit for this one. This was all the players. The players won the bronze medal match without the help of me, that's for sure. Anyway, an interesting map. And then we won bronze. Oh, pretty interesting weekend. It was a pretty interesting weekend. A lot of, like, I wasn't the most experienced coach going into this. You know, even then, you know, we're going against people who have Overwatch League coaches like Pavane, Narui, Hayes. All three of them seriously impressed me. Seriously impressed me. What Hayes did for that UK squad is unbelievable. So, yeah, it was a good experience. I am I am pleased that we got bronze. It's about as good as one could have expected. You know, there were some great teams. UK did so great. You know, it was close. It was close that last Lijiang match. If Canada hadn't wanted that more than they have wanted kind of anything previously, it could have gone either way. But yeah, I hope that gives you kind of a better insight into Canada's road to the bronze.